The Chinese seem to have got it all wrong, and the Boycott China campaign in India is working very much against them. This particular cartoon has appeared in their only English daily called the Global Times. It depicts a man with an elephant head and having a paintbrush in his hand. This particular cartoon is also depicting that the person is wearing a dress very similar to the one which is worn by our Prime Minister Mr. Modi. Now, a question which would arise in a lot of people's mind is, why is the elephant's head chosen in the particular cartoon? What is the reason behind showing an elephant's head? And why is it so that they have taken an elephant and put in the body of a man and has shown the man wearing a dress very similar to the one which is worn by our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi? The expression on the cartoon kind of implies that this elephant is thinking to itself, did I make a mistake by painting black on that particular canvas? An indirect jibe at Prime Minister Modi. It's like saying Modi is repenting on the fact that he has asked to boycott Chinese product. The Chinese laughed at us when we banned their apps. They said, what is it going to do to our economy? Nothing whatsoever. The Indian economy, they said, was dependent on these apps, and that there were so many unemployed youth in India who were using these apps, and the Chinese apps were helping them to time pass. They laughed at us when we said, please boycott the firecrackers. They said, what is the point? We export more to the other countries than what we export to India. They laughed at us when we stopped them from investing in Indian economy. Now, there is an article which is published in the Global Times. It is China's national English language daily. Any article that appears on that daily is thoroughly scrutinized by different level of teams, and when it appears on the paper, on the newspaper, on the daily, it is a proof that the government itself, the Chinese government itself, has okayed the publishing of that particular article. The article is written by Qian Feng. He is the director of Research Department at the National Strategy Institute of Tsinghua University, and he has written in details about a lot of things which China is undergoing at the present stage. He talks of a proposal which is sent by our various departments of Indian government to Mr. Modi, asking them to clear FDI up to 26% of all the countries which share their land boundaries with India. So it is trying to imply that the Indians are trying to revise their policy and trying to make a way for the Chinese to come and invest in India. He uses the word that this is a soft approach taken by the Indian government and seem to have learnt a lesson from the harming others but not benefiting itself policy. He implies to say that harming others means harming China but not benefiting itself. In other words, he is taking a jibe at the Indian policies, and he says that the boycott China concept started when there was a clash between the Indian and the Chinese soldiers at the disputed Galwan Valley region. The Chinese thought that, as usual, they can get away with everything and they can even capture this valley as well. But they never knew that the Indian soldiers' mentality has now changed, and they always follow the tit for tat policy which has been given to them by our Honorable Prime Minister Mr. Modi. Many of the Chinese companies find themselves banned or terminated from all contracts in India. Many of the Chinese companies also do not find a way by which they can invest in any sort of investments in India. The Chinese have been complaining that the customs clearance of these Chinese cargo vessels are being blocked. A lot of their infrastructure projects have been suspended, so on and so forth. The Chinese are upset that India did not even sign the RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Program, and based on which the Chinese were planning to flood the Indian markets with Chinese goods, and that too cheap Chinese goods. But India understood their plan and hence they did not sign this treaty. The article went on to say that China and India were the only two countries in the world to have a population of 100 crore, and this population could be helped by each other by favoring the two nations. The trade between India and China grew to nearly $100 billion, and it showed a continuous increase in the Chinese investment in all sectors. The article further went on to say that in 2019, more than 1,000 Chinese enterprises had invested an approximately $8 billion in various Indian companies, and that they also made a mention that in the last 6 years of PM Modi's rule, the foreign direct investments in India have rapidly increased and improved as well. In the article, the gentleman is trying to say that what has India done wrong? Is that India originally hoped that the US and the European companies would increase their investment in India, but their calculation went wrong and that has not happened. So the Chinese are subtly reminding the Indian government to get back to the pre-boycott days. Now all this because there is a news, and it is a correct news, that under the National Infrastructure Pipeline Program, the Indian government is going to invest about $1.4 trillion, which is, as of today's rate, which is 21st of November, a crore 3,45,797 crore of rupees. This was floated way back in October 19 and has to be done in the next 5 years. The amount is to be spent on road and railways, energy supply, and communication facilities. We say that Chinese companies have an advantage in these areas of logistics, infrastructure, and telecommunication, that it would be a good idea for India to allow the Chinese companies to invest in India. There is a proverb in Hindi which says, "Ab aaya oont pahad ke niche," and that's exactly what the condition is now. Please to subscribe and like my channel.